Now, the Iranian ambassador in Australia has been given a week to leave the country after alleging that Iran was behind two anti-Semitic attacks that took place at the end of last year. This is the first time since World War II that Australia has expelled an ambassador. That's according to its foreign minister. The Australian Security Intelligence Organisation say they've uncovered links between the alleged crimes and the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. With us now, Holly Dagres, who's an Iranian-American analyst and commentator and a senior fellow at the Washington Institute think tank. Holly, good evening to you.
Good evening. Thank you for having me on the program.
I understand that Iran has vowed reciprocal action after Australia indicated that it wanted to expel the Iranian ambassador.
Yes, and we've already heard from Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, who just tweeted about the incident and is calling Australia's prime minister a weak prime minister, and was actually ironically quoting Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to make the point. And of course, denied the allegations that Australia had made against Tehran and the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps.
So let's just talk through those allegations and set them in context of what they relate to when these attacks took place, these anti-Jewish attacks took place.
Sure. So, well, according to the reports, there were two events that took place. One was targeting a synagogue. The other was targeting a kosher restaurant. I think what's noteworthy is that these events happened before the 12-day Iran-Israel war, but a lot has, of course, happened before the events of this war in June. We had the two tit-for-tat strikes between Iran and Israel. The first was in April of last year, and the second was in October. And a lot of analysts like myself noted at the time that there would be likely an uptake in targeting of the Jewish community, maybe Israeli embassy and consulates around the world. So to those of us that have been watching this issue carefully, it's not really a surprise to hear that Australian intelligence has unveiled this information that it was tied to Tehran, and presumably, especially given the events of the 12-day war, we will be seeing similar probably unveilings in the future if there are any anti-Semitic attacks or plots against Israeli consulates or embassies around the world.
What does this development mean for Australian civilians currently in Iran? Are they being told to leave?
I mean, there's been definitely amongst Western countries in Australia a notification not to travel to Tehran because of the events of the war. I should note that even before this news made headlines, just weeks prior, 14 countries issued a statement, and I believe Australia was one of them, in which it condemned transnational repression by the Islamic Republic. And I think it's really important to contextualize this because according to the Abdul Rahman Burman Center here in Washington that documents human rights abuses by the Islamic Republic, they've documented at least 450 incidents of transnational repression by the Islamic Republic over its 46-year history. So what you're hearing isn't out of the ordinary, but I think what I should emphasize is this surprising development that the Australians plan to designate the IRGC as a terrorist organization, which is something that actually Britain has refused to do.
Yeah.
So I think that's very noteworthy in the given the news that's come out of Australia. And for those that are listening, of course, we've had these issues of transnational repression for years in the UK. So I'm curious to see how Britain reacts to this and if it puts more pressure on the government to actually take matters into its own hands and maybe follow suit.
Look, Holly, really good to speak to you. Thank you for the context on that. Holly Dagres, who is an Iranian-American analyst and commentator and senior fellow at the Washington Institute think tank.
Iran has sought to disguise its involvement through the use of criminal elements being paid here in Australia. ASIO assesses that apart from these two attacks, it is likely that there are more as well. I would hope that the leader of the opposition and appropriate. We were briefed by ASIO yesterday. We went through our appropriate processes and ensured that the Australian diplomats who are based in Tehran were able to get safely to a third country before these revelations became public because of concern for their safety, and I confirm that that has occurred, and we've suspended operations at the embassy in Tehran. Action in response. The Iranian ambassador, this is the case that this is the most serious response that any Australian government has given. We don't expel an ambassador lightly because of the consequences of that, which aren't obviously all upside. But we do think that it is an appropriate response given the extraordinary behaviour and the direct link that they've been able to draw through a direct chain.
Are in the gallery today, and Ms Selina Ubo, the leader of the opposition in the...
We are all disgusted to learn of the serious and chilling foreign interference which has been perpetrated by the Islamic Republic of Iran on Australian soil.
Her remarks to the Prime Minister's...
Speaker, I rise on indulgence. These acts of egregious foreign interference are brazen attempts to cleave apart our social cohesion, to turn neighbour against neighbour and Australian against Australian. I therefore want to make it abundantly clear on behalf of the Coalition that while we sit opposite from the government in this chamber, we are entirely united behind the measures announced today to expel the Iranian ambassador and list the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps as a terrorist organisation.
We certainly see it from Israel that Australia taking the threats against Israel and the Jewish people, Jewish Australians living in Australia, for the Australian government to take those threats seriously is a positive outcome. It is, of course, a matter for the Australian government, the actions they take, but be in no doubt the government of Iran, I don't say the people of Iran, the government of Iran are a wholly negative influence on world affairs. They openly say they wish to wipe this country off the face of the earth. And they have around the world, in London and now it seems in Australia as well, are actively seeking to attack Jewish communities and other Israeli interests or targets in Israel.